I know you will do anything to help your child succeed and overcome executive functioning struggles. But you could actually be slowing down your child's progress with these really, really good intentions. It's definitely not your fault because they're not that obvious. So let me walk you through these executive functioning mistakes and how you can avoid them. Mistake number 1 is starting to help your child without really knowing where to begin. You know they're struggling at school, you know they're forgetting things, you know they're losing things, you know they're having a hard time with routine. So you're just jumping in with good intentions, trying to help them do better. So for example, you are going to set them up with an, right before bed routine, right? So they can be more organized and have all the things they need. So you set them up with this great routine, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, you put a list, and you're still not seeing them being able to complete the evening routine. And you can't figure out why. It's like, well, the routine was helping them organize their stuff, right? Sounds like a great idea. But what they really struggled with, and you would know this from learning about your child's executive functioning profile, is what they really struggle with is an organization. It's actually prioritizing what to do first. So you can see why setting up a routine that's all about organizing your area doesn't really help them, because they're not able to prioritize what they really need next, what they really need for tomorrow. So this is where knowing what your child needs and learning their executive functioning strengths and weaknesses is going to be able to help your strategies be something that they actually need. Second mistake is applying general tips and tricks. So tell me, because I know we've all done it, what's the last thing that you've tried? Did you try checklists? Did you try Post-its? Did you try a new agenda? And tell me if it works, because sometimes they do work. So let me know below. I mean, it makes sense that agendas, timers, lists, cubbies, organizers, baskets do help support executive functioning skills. But the part that nobody talks about is if you are already struggling with certain executive functioning skills, all these bells and whistles aren't really going to be what you need. You need to dig a little deeper and build a strategy to help meet your child where they're at. I will add on, some people do make progress with a random checklist here and there, but where I see that the progress kind of plateaus is as long as we are making the checklist, so they're basically using mom and dad's executive functioning skills, the child will do well. So the part where I see that we plateau at is the part where we need to send that control back to the child and build in that independent learning. So, okay, great, we know the checklists work. Now we need to get the child to think about what they need for the checklist so that they become the owner of the checklist. And they can use that strategy for themselves, independent of our own brain. But that comes with time. Third mistake is you go it alone. You read the books, you look on Instagram, you've learned all the tips and tricks, and you try and implement them on your own, and you feel frustrated, disappointed, because they didn't work as you wanted them. It didn't work as your child needed them to work. And then this just ends up leaving you frustrated and disappointed. The anti-venom to this is to find yourself someone that can support you and help you navigate what your child's strengths are, what your child's weaknesses, what strategy is really going to make a difference for your family, and how to implement it, when to implement it, and how to follow a step-by-step protocol. This one's a little controversial, I'm not gonna lie. So you may have, this is our mistake number 4, you may have a limiting belief about how much progress your child can make, right? Maybe you had a big, juicy psychoeducational report that had all these numbers and all this data, and your limiting belief is, oh, they just can't do this. They have a really bad working memory. They can't remember how to bring all their homework in. So then we overcompensate, and it's kind of like, oh, the poor baby syndrome, right? Oh, poor them, they're not gonna be able to do it. Data doesn't lie, right? However, we don't wanna use the data to have limiting beliefs. We wanna use the data or our observations to say, okay, this is an area that our child is really struggling in. And we want to go from they really can't do this to what do they need so that they can be independent with this. And in the beginning, it might look a lot like help coming from us awesome adults that are trying to help the kids, right? But remember, our goal is always to build in that independence. So there's two things you do to improve executive functioning skills. You change the environment to support your weaknesses, right? And then the second part is you actually build that skill in the brain. So with those two combined methods, and if we get rid of our limiting beliefs, we should be able to find many possibilities to help our child with the skill. It doesn't mean they're going to be, perfect and they're going to be excellent, but we can make it so that they do make progress. And that's what we're looking for. So number 3 was you try and go it alone without any help or without any coaching. So this last one is actually you think your kid can go it alone. So I've seen it over and over and over again. For executive functioning skills, it's very unique, right? Executive functioning skills is one of the few areas that we really see that we need accountability and touch points. And it is very hard for an executive functioning coach to build that in with a child, even a teenager, because we're not with them all day, right? So it's one thing for the parent to bring them to the session, whether it's in person or virtual. You can make sure that they logged on, you drop them off, you pick them up. But with thinking that your child going to that session once a week is going to be enough to improve their executive functioning skills so that life at home and school gets better and easier, it's not. It very rarely works out that way. And if it does, it takes a really long time. But when we bring in that accountability piece, when we bring in that touch points, my favorite way to do this is with parents like you, all of a sudden we see progress within that first week happening with the kids. In addition to these mistakes that parents make, there is a whole bunch of myths out there related to executive functioning skills. And I want to make sure you do not fall for any of these executive functioning myths. And that is what my next video is all about. So go ahead, click below and learn all about executive functioning myths.